the differences between Edmonton and Florida, the first two games of the Stanley Cup Final. Not on Monday night. 56 seconds in, future Hall of Famer Brad Marchand gets the party started for the Panthers. The Oilers were chasing early. It continued the rest of the night. And to borrow a line from the great Gordon Bombay, as the third period carried on, this isn't a hockey game, it's a circus, a clowning at the hands of the defending champs, 6-1, and the Panthers take a 2-1 series lead in the Stanley Cup Final.
Kyle, I think a lot of the discourse out of this game will be noise. Stuff that really doesn't matter in the big picture. Things that I don't think are really important in the big picture. The fact that the Oilers lost fights, that they tried to take a piece out of the Panthers, like none of that stuff in the third period bothers me. It doesn't bother me at all. Because that's what Florida does when they're losing. They try to take a piece out of you. To me, that is all immaterial. What is important to me is what happened in the first 25 minutes. Edmonton lost the game in the first 25 minutes. That is the big storyline. That is what the Oilers have to look at and put under the microscope from this game. That is what really matters, and that's what they have to fix. I bet you if you ask the Panthers, they tell you they would like to drop the puck today, play game 4 tonight, and take us all off the beach in Florida and bring us back into the arena. The 2 days off, and I hate 2 days off in the same city in the Cup Final, cannot stand it. But the 2 days off, I think, is better for Edmonton because it's a reset. They just suffered their worst loss of this year's playoffs, a complete butt kicking in a big game by the Florida Panthers. They, as you said, they were behind in the first minute. They have allowed Florida to set the tone and the tempo too much in the Stanley Cup Final. They haven't led very much at all, which allows the Panthers to play more of the game they like to play, suffocating, stingy, dictating the tempo, dictating what's going to happen out of there. And they looked frustrated. And I'm not talking about penalty frustrated. I'm talking about, McDavid had a drop pass that didn't work and he was shaking his head. They had power. Like, people were complaining about the Panthers getting 11 power plays. Edmonton had power play opportunities in the first period. They didn't score. And then when they finally got one early in the second, they gave one back 2 minutes later, 80 seconds later. They didn't even stay within a goal for 2 minutes. In the first period, they committed 3 offensive zone penalties and a too many men. A lot of their plays were guys trying to beat Florida one-on-one. You're almost, twice in the overtime at the first game, Edmonton beat the Panthers at Florida's blue line with one-on-one moves and had breakaways. That's rare. Like, it happened that night, but it's rare. Generally, you are not coming down the ice 1-on-3 or 1-on-2 against the Florida Panthers. So to me, they have to go back to the drawing board. They have to say, okay, this is why our power play is drying up. This is why our 5-on-5 play is drying up. McDavid now in 5 Stanley Cup Final games in Florida, and this isn't a criticism of him, it's a fact. With Barkov and Forsling on the ice 5-on-5, they're not giving him anything. And what helps is that Ekblad, who is Forsling's regular partner, is playing his best hockey of his life. Like, I think he's got one 5-on-5 point in the 5 games in Florida during the last 2 Stanley Cup Finals. He needs help. As great as he is, like, he's been hit hard this series. He got hit hard once in this game and went to the room with the equipment guy. He got clobbered on the power play in game number 2, which you never see. Like, Florida has set up the layers and they're disciplined to stick to it. Where's the help from the depth lines that, they've gotten so much more of in the past? Like, that to me, like, we can talk about the fights and the penalties and, whatever. Like, to me, that is so far. If Anthony Stewart was here, it's not even secondary, it's tertiary, Kyle. Like, that stuff doesn't matter. What matters is what happened in the first 23 minutes that they basically lost this game. That's the important stuff they have to fix. Not the fighting and the losing the fights, and that was all frustration. That they knew the game was over at that point. You have to fix what got you into that position in the first place. All the things that went wrong earlier that allowed the game to devolve into that. That's where you lost. That's what you have to fix, because you got to be 2-2 after Thursday.
Right, and 140 penalty minutes total in this one, but as you say, a lot of it were just the empty calorie ones that will only be nothing more than water cooler fodder to help fill the time over the 2 off days before game number 4. But it's the third straight game, Elliot, where it's been penalty crazy in the first period.
Yeah.
Right out of the gate, and it's some of the ticky stack time. So I don't know if it's, again, in the mindset of the officials, you call one and suddenly now it's like your mind's going, well, if we call that, then the next one's got to be, as you try to establish a standard early. But boy, it's really led to, now I know both teams deal with it, but it's certainly played a role in just trying to find a bit of a flow here early on in each of these games so far.
And then it kind of disappears a bit later after that. You're right, Kyle. Like, here's the thing. Like, this is, I always strive for consistency, right? What is one penalty they are consistently calling in these playoffs? High sticking. You get a stick in the face, in someone's face, you're getting a penalty. And he took one in game 2, and the Oilers took a couple in game 3. Like, if you get a stick in someone's face, you're getting a penalty. That's consistent. They started to call goaltender interference a bit more consistently, which was the opposite of the way that they did the goal in game 1. But Bobrovsky dove on the one. Like, I have no problem with them giving Arvidsson a penalty if they want to protect the goalies, but that's a dive. And everybody who listens to this podcast knows how much I hate embellishment and what a big problem it is. And then Tkachuk ran into Skinner and didn't get a penalty, and Skinner was mad about that. I'll tell you which one. Of all the penalties in this game, the one that would have driven me craziest if I was the Oilers was the too many men call. And not because it wasn't too many men, it's because Florida got away with one in overtime in game 2 when Ekblad got hurt. So you're sitting there. Someone said to me there were like 8 guys on the ice. Like, it was crazy. But, you're just mad because Florida didn't get one 3 nights ago. So I don't know. I mean, look, could the games be officiated better? Always, always, always. I hate diving. It makes me crazy. You can't high stick anyone. But again, Edmonton had their power play opportunities. They absolutely did. They scored once, and they gave up another one 2 minutes later. Officiating, maybe it drives people crazy, sure, but that's not the reason Edmonton lost this game. They lost this game because they let Florida score early. Their power play went numb. They gave up the goal right after. Bobrovsky made saves when Skinner didn't, and Florida just choked the life out of them 5-on-5.